So the last thing I need is a plot button, so I'll just take this plot button and trace out a plot button, and then I'll change its properties. So I'll call the tag button plot, and the string will just say plot. Alright, I'll make it 12 point, and that's good enough for now. And then I want to take this axis thing and map it out. I want to go ahead and change the properties of this thing. There's a couple things I want to do. One is I want to change the tag. Oh, there's a lot of stuff in this one. I went too far. So the tag, I'll just change it to axes plot. And if I had more than one, I'd use a descriptive name, axes plot 1 or axes plot 2 or something like that. And then the other thing is there's a visible property, and I want to change that to off, and that way it won't show up until I actually plot in it. But this way there's not an empty plot when I start up the thing. So I think that's all we need, and all we have to do now is save it. So I'll do file save, and then we have to go and write the code that does all this stuff. Alright, so I've switched back to the M-file editor, and this is our next demo GUI.m file. And you'll notice that at the bottom, when we saved that from guide, it put in a couple new functions. The first one is a callback for edit alpha. So this function will be executed every time the alpha box is edited. So for now, I'm just going to delete this. I don't really want anything to happen when I edit alpha. I want all the action to happen when I hit the plot button, and that's this function down here, button plot callback. This function will get executed when I hit the plot button. Now the first thing I have to do from the plot button is grab alpha out of the edit alpha text box, and I've just pasted in the function that does that. Alright, so first thing to look at is here, handles.edit alpha picks out the edit alpha text box, the edit box, and this function get gets the string property from that box. Alright, and the string property from that box is the value that's in it. Alright, so this whole function get handles edit alpha string just grabs the number that's in the box, and then str2num converts a string, which is what we get out of the box, to a number. Alright, so now alpha is a number that's gotten from converting the string in that box to a number. Now the next thing I want to do is stick that into that other text box that will be our output. So I do something like this. Alright, so what this does, it says set the text output object's string value to be the sign of alpha, which is converted from a number to a string. Alright, that says a lot. Okay, so set this object's string property to be this. Alright, and what this thing does is it takes sign of pi times alpha, so whatever we got from alpha, for alpha from the previous step, takes a sign of that, and then converts that number to a string, and then it'll stick it in the box. So just this should do what we want. Alright, so just to test that, let's save it, and then go back to the command window, and we'll run the thing again. Here it is. Now if I hit plot, I should get sign of 1.75 pi in the box. And I assume that's right. Let's test it. If I change this to 1, sign of pi should be 0. That looks pretty good. Alright, so let's see if I can do this. 1/4 plot. Alright, so you can actually put operators in there, and you can actually put known constants like pi. So this will give sign of pi squared, whatever that is. Okay, so it's pretty flexible. All right, whatever you're allowed to use as an argument in sign. I expect you could even put a function exp of 1. So this would be sign of e pi, whatever that is. Alright, I assume that's right, but I guess I don't know for sure. Alright, so now all we have to do is get that same plot plot button to also stick the plot of pi x, or of alpha x, into this little plot window that goes down the square. So let's exit this and go back to our window here, and now at the bottom down here we want to add some code that calculates all this stuff. So the first thing we do is do x equals 0 colon 0.1 colon 10. Alright, so we get a set of x values from 0 to 10, incrementing by 0.1. Now you could have all these be input parameters, but I'm just going to fix it here. And then y equals sine of alpha times x. So now we have our x and y values. All we have to do is stick a plot of those into that little axes box that we created on our window. So now all we need to do is stick in the appropriate code to do the plot. So we'll do paste, and here's what I did. P handles equals plot of xy parent handles.myAxis. So basically this takes a plot of x and y, and using the default of parent, which you don't have to worry about, then handles.myAxis says stick the plot into this object, which is that little axis that I made, although I call it axes plot. Alright, so this is the tag to that little graph I pasted into the GUI, and handles.axesplot is how I refer to that object, handles.tag, and then plot xy takes our xy data and sticks it in there. Alright, the other stuff you don't have to worry about. By the way, it's not like I understand every detail of all this stuff. The way I learn how to do this is by finding samples in the Matlab documentation and playing around with them. Alright, so that's probably the way you need to approach it. Try to either buy a book, and there are books on Matlab GUIs, or just find samples and play around with them. Anyway, we'll save this and see if this works. One never knows. So we'll go back here, type next demo GUI, click plot, and there it is. Alright, now I can change this to 2 and hit plot to 57, and I should get a whole lot of cycles. Alright, so that's about how it works. I wonder, did I make a mistake here? No, I think that's working. Alright, so the bottom line is that it's fairly easy to draw these out. The writing of these little functions takes a little getting used to, and getting used to this way they refer to objects takes a little getting used to, but once you get the hang of it, and it does take a little while, but once you get the hang of it, then it's fairly easy to build GUI apps in Matlab. Now, with a little effort, you could certainly make yours look better than mine looks, but this gives you the general idea of how it works. Alright, so give it a shot if you're interested, and just feel free to ask me questions. Alright, thanks a lot.